Good evening.
How
Thanks so
you
much
doing,
for
my
joining.
dear brother?
I'm doing okay, as well as can be expected under the circumstances. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know what you mean.
this trial, it's gut wrenching. I mean, Sarah summed it up there. You know, the man begging for his life, pleading to be seen as a man, like all the rest of us. Then the video of George Floyd dying over and over and over again. What is this trial saying about us as a country, especially when it comes to how we all see race?
No, it takes us to the most fundamental question that has always sat at the center of not just America, but the 400 years that you and my ancestors have been here, which is, do we have the will to stay in contact with the rich humanity of Black people? To stay in contact with the beauty of Black people, the intelligence of Black people, the tenderness of Black people, the soulfulness of Black people. When you talk about Brother George Perry Floyd Jr., you're talking about a human being. You're talking about a precious son of George Perry Sr. and precious Larcenia Jones Floyd. You're talking about what it means actually to open yourself to get beyond the stereotypes and acknowledge that for the first nearly 100 years, America failed on that question. You didn't stay in contact with the humanity of Black people. You enslaved us. You exploited us. You tortured us. We tried to barbarize us, and we responded with making your democracy better, with more love, more freedom, and more wounded healing. Then we came back for another 100 years of neo-slavery. We failed on that again. Looked like under Martin and Fannie Lou Hamer and others, we were making a breakthrough. Looked like under Brother Barack Obama, we're making some progress. Here comes the backlash again. So here we are in 2020 saying very much how you started your show, my brother. Do we have what it takes to really acknowledge the rich humanity of Black folk, to treat us fairly, to treat us like human beings? Because if not, you're going to lose your democracy. You're going under. You're going fascist. If it wasn't for Black voters, especially Black women voters, you would have gone fascist under the gangster named Trump. And keep in mind, though, and this is the good news now, because this is Easter week. You know, it was tomorrow they put my sweet Jesus on the cross. Rome Empire put him on the cross for going into that temple and running out those money changers. And that temple was a huge place, hundreds of troops. But what we heard from our vanilla sister, Courtney, was what? I stayed in contact with the rich humanity of Brother George. I knew he was a tender man. I knew he was a soulful man. I knew he was a kind man. I knew he was a human being, faults and foibles, like all of us, no matter what color or gender or sexual orientation. But thank God we've got some acknowledgement of it. Will the police be able to do it?
Okay.
Because I'm telling you, brother, if the police can't do it, then, we're going to do it ourselves.
Okay.
I can tell you this, too. Now, let me just add this one thing, though, brother.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
When I thought about Brother George, and I thought about my brother, and I thought about my father, and I thought about my grandfather, I'm not going to stand there for no 9 minutes and 29 seconds and watch somebody murder my father. No. No. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about pacifism, and I believe in nonviolence, but I'm not going to watch that kind of murder. I love my brother Charles McMillan. That's why he was crying. That's what his tears were about. He felt helpless. We're not going to do that. Some of us Black folk, some of us Black men, we're not going to stand there. We're going to have to intervene in some way. You ain't going to kill us like that, and we remain spectators. Because somewhere I read, silence is not an option. I don't stand with the silence. That's the last two sentences of your letter to Drew, your letter to your nephew. But America needs to understand that, too. We got a self-respect. We got a self-defense. And we intervene when you start killing us like that.
I'm sorry.
We intervene out of love, brother. Out of deep love. We do it for Mommy.
Let me ask you this, because everyone I saw on that video, and I asked this earlier, everyone I saw had some empathy, saw the humanity, felt the humanity of George Floyd, as you said, foibles and all. We're not thinking that when someone's laying on on the pavement in that situation, like what they've done wrong. We're thinking about, well, you're taking the life from a human being. Why is it that every single, and when you said the police thing, everybody saw his humanity and felt it, except for the police officers who were there?
Because they've been getting away with it for decade after decade after decade. Even the good policemen, in the language of the mainstream, they remain silent. And they allow the gangsters in their ranks who've been mistreating folk. And keep in mind, brother, it's not just black folk who've been treated like this. You got some white brothers and sisters being treated like this, but we get 3 times. We get 36% of all of them. We only 12.8% of the population. You see what I mean? So we concerned about everybody. We ain't just because we're not confined to just the chocolate side. But I'll be damned if we're not gonna start with the chocolate side of town, with our blacks, our brown, and indigenous folk, and our Asians. And it is in the name of love, but love sometimes can get real tough. Love is protect, respect, and correct. And we're not gonna stand there and just be victims. No. No, that's not Shiloh Baptist Church. That's not the West family. That's not Glen Elder. That's not Curtis Mayfield. That's not Gladys Knight and the Pips. We come out swinging.
You have a reaction, Kahmali?
Yeah, no, I mean, Cornel West, every time he speaks, it's moving stuff. He is a powerful speaker. Everything that he says, he speaks truth. I don't agree with every single position he has, just like everybody else. He was in the camp of we got to vote for Biden and then we're going to push him left. And I disagree with him on that back then. But he, what he says here when he speaks to these issues, it's always powerful. The way that he's able to weave together all these varied concepts and bring together religion and politics and economics and to weave this sort of complex tapestry, and it's beautiful stuff hearing him speak. Don Lemon, it's Don Lemon, it's CNN. The dude's a neoliberal. His concern here, he has this he's not concerned about any of the sort of issues that affect poor black and brown people. Every single day he goes on CNN and he's a part of the machine that allows, that is complicit in all of the violence being enacted on these communities, the failure of the media to do their job, to call attention to the actual policies that matter. Instead, they focus, the 24-hour news cycle on, Don Lemon talking about planes flying into, black holes in the Bermuda Triangle with that, whatever that flight was that disappeared or whatever.
That's good content, man.
Yeah. So this, so we, instead of talking about all the housing crisis and how that impacted, poor black, what it did to the black wealth just evaporated in this country.
But I do think it says something that even such a mealy-mouthed, fucking corporate centrist was brought to tears by the power of Dr. West, who, of course, is just such an inspirational and such a great orator. So, while I totally agree with you, I do think it speaks to Cornel West's ability to speak to anyone and everyone. And I do think it's a good thing that he goes on, even very mainstream spaces to make these points, because again, he wasn't just, talking about whatever. He was actually, deconstructing notions about the myth of the few good or the few bad apples. And, he points to the fact that it's not just the fact that there's a few bad cops. It's the fact that we have an entire fucking police force that won't talk about this, that refuses to hold their own to account when they murder Americans in broad daylight. So I am glad that Cornel West can, make that point to Don Lemon's audience that's, probably not hearing from many radicals.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he has a unique ability. He did this on Joe Rogan as well. I think he's able to go into any sort of environment. And
he does it in a way where he never compromises, right? And I think that it's so important, right? Because the thing about, Cornel West is that the dude has a unique way of touching your soul when he speaks. I think that's undeniable in a way that a lot of other speakers that I really admire, and I read their written work a lot, like, somebody like Chris Hedges. But when you read, when you listen rather to Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West, it touches your heart in a way that is unique to what he is saying to you, and he cuts through everything. And and when you're listening to that, that what he's saying, and he's making a plea essentially, and he's framing it as a plea to the African American male community, the black male community in America, but really it should be a plea to all of us, that if we see this violence being perpetuated, it is your fucking duty to intervene, because that is what solidarity is. That is what true solidarity is, right? Eugene Debs, if there is a soul in prison, I am not free. This is what true socialism and solidarity looks like, and he's able to reach a mainstream audience like that on CNN and touch the soul of everybody that heard that, and know that we all have to do better, because we're all in some capacity responsible for the death of George Floyd, because we all live and accept the conditions of the society that allowed that to happen, and we have to come to terms with that, and we have to take the initiative to replace the system that allows those kinds of tragedies and injustices to occur on a repeated basis without any kind of retribution.